Rich CEO couldn't get his son to sleep, and the poor neighbor girl sang her a lullaby. One night, Daniel Carter, a wealthy CEO, was walking back and forth in his bedroom, holding his crying baby boy in his arms. It had been hours. No matter what he tried, the baby would not stop crying. His wife had passed away just 3 months earlier, after a long illness, and ever since then, nights had been the hardest. Daniel rocked the baby, whispered soft words, even played gentle music from his phone, but nothing helped. His son's cries echoed through the large house, breaking the silence and breaking Daniel's heart even more. He was exhausted, helpless and alone. Then, suddenly, there was a soft knock at the door. Daniel turned quickly, surprised. When he opened it, he saw a small girl standing there. She was no more than 6 years old, with big curious eyes and messy hair tied with a ribbon. It was Lily, the daughter of his maid Rosa. Daniel blinked. Lily. What are you doing awake at this hour? The little girl clasped her hands together nervously. Mr. Carter, I can make him stop crying. Daniel almost laughed, though not in a cruel way. He was simply too tired to believe a child could do what he couldn't. Really? You think you can stop him? Lily nodded firmly. Yes. My mama sings to me when I can't sleep. I can sing to him. Daniel hesitated. It felt strange to hand over his crying son to a child. But Jacob's wailing only grew louder in his arms, and Daniel was desperate. He sighed. All right, Lily. Show me. The little girl stepped closer. She gently touched the edge of the crib, leaned in, and began to hum a tune. It was simple, almost like a melody only children knew. Her voice was small but sweet, carrying a strange calmness with it. Within minutes, Jacob's cry softened, his tiny fists loosened. His breathing slowed. And then, as if by magic, he closed his eyes and fell asleep. Daniel stood frozen. He had spent hours trying everything he knew. Yet in just a few minutes, this 6-year-old girl had done the impossible. Lily smiled proudly. See, he likes songs. Daniel swallowed hard, his throat tight. He laid Jacob gently in the crib and turned to Lily. Thank you. He whispered. You don't know what this means to me. The girl tilted her head. I can sing again if he cries tomorrow. Daniel's eyes softened. You would do that? Of course, Lily said, as if it was the most natural thing in the world. That night, after Rosa came to take Lily back to their small room in the house, Daniel sat quietly by the crib, watching his son sleep peacefully for the first time in weeks. He thought of his wife, Claire, and the way she used to sing. Tears filled his eyes, but this time, they were not only tears of grief, they carried a spark of hope. He whispered into the silence. Claire, maybe you sent her. And for the first time since his wife's death, Daniel felt a little less alone. The next morning. Sunlight filtered through the tall windows of the Carter mansion. Daniel woke up earlier than usual, not because of crying, but because the house was quiet. For the first time in months, he had slept for a few hours without interruption. When he entered the nursery, Jacob was still peacefully asleep, his tiny chest rising and falling in calm rhythm. Daniel stood there for a while, almost in disbelief. He whispered softly, "Good morning, buddy." He touched his son's small hand, and a rush of relief washed over him. He hadn't realized how much he needed just one night of peace. Later that morning, Rosa came into the kitchen with her daughter Lily. The little girl had her hair brushed neatly, and she wore a faded pink dress that was slightly too small for her, but she looked cheerful. She gave Daniel a shy wave. "Morning, Mr. Carter," Rosa said quickly, her tone polite as always. She glanced nervously at her daughter. "I'm sorry if Lily bothered you last night. She shouldn't have left her room without asking me." Daniel shook his head firmly. "No, Rosa. She didn't bother me at all. In fact, she helped me more than I can explain." Jacob finally slept. Rosa's eyes widened. She looked at Lily, then back at Daniel. "Really, she made him sleep." Daniel smiled faintly. "Yes, she sang to him, and it worked." He bent down to Lily's height. "Thank you, Lily. You saved me last night." The little girl beamed. "You're welcome. He's cute. I like babies." Daniel chuckled softly. It felt strange to laugh in this house again, but Lily's innocence made it natural. He turned back to Rosa. "If it's all right with you, maybe she could help sometimes at night. Only if she wants to, of course." Rosa hesitated. She was a proud woman, even though she didn't have much. "Sir." She's just a child. I don't want her to trouble you. Daniel shook his head. It's no trouble. She has a gift. Jacob responds to her in a way he doesn't respond to anyone else. Rosa looked down, finally nodding. If you say so, Mr. Carter. That evening, just as Jacob began fussing again, Lily peeked into the nursery. Daniel was pacing with the baby in his arms, looking tired already. The little girl tilted her head and said, "Can I try again?" Daniel let out a breath of relief. "Yes, please." He placed Jacob back into the crib, and Lily climbed onto the chair beside it. She started humming, her small voice filling the room with warmth. Within minutes, Jacob's cries slowed, and his eyes fluttered shut. Daniel sat down in the corner, watching the scene in awe. He realized he wasn't just watching his son calm down, he was watching himself calm down too. After Jacob fell asleep, Daniel said quietly, "Lily, how do you know those songs? Where did you learn them?" Lily shrugged. "My mama sings them to me. They're not from TV or anything. Just songs we know." Daniel smiled. "They're beautiful. And they work like magic." Lily giggled. "It's not magic, it's just love. Babies like love." Her words hit Daniel harder than she knew. Love. That was what had been missing since Claire passed away. His house was full of money. Full of staff, full of everything material. But it was love, simple and pure, that Jacob needed most. And somehow this little girl had brought it back. Over the next few nights, the routine continued. Jacob would cry, Daniel would try and fail to soothe him, and Lily would step in with her lullabies. Each time, Jacob calmed quicker. Each time, Daniel's admiration for Lily grew. One evening, after Jacob had fallen asleep, Daniel walked Lily to the hallway. "You know," he said gently, "you're very special. Not everyone can do what you do." Lily looked up at him. "Special? I'm just me." Daniel smiled sadly. "Sometimes, being yourself is the most special thing of all." But as the days passed, Daniel began to notice something else. Lily's clothes were always worn out. Her shoes were old and scuffed. Rosa worked hard but didn't have much. Daniel realized that while his house was full of luxuries, this child who had given him peace had so little herself. One afternoon, Daniel asked Rosa to sit with him in the kitchen. She looked nervous, wiping her hands on her apron. "Sir, is something wrong?" "No," Daniel said gently. I want to thank you and Lily properly. You've both done more for me than I can explain." He paused. "Tell me, Rosa, is Lily in school?" Rosa's face fell. "No, sir. I can't afford it right now. I teach her what I can at home." Daniel felt a sharp pang in his chest. A child this bright deserved more. He leaned forward. "Would you allow me to help? I can arrange for her education. She deserves a chance." Rosa's eyes filled with tears. "Sir, I don't know what to say. You've already given us a roof over our heads. You've given me something greater." Daniel replied firmly. "You've given me peace when I thought I'd never find it again." That night, as Lily sang Jacob to sleep, Daniel sat in the nursery chair and thought about how much had changed in just a week. His house no longer felt so empty. His son was calmer. And for the first time since Claire's death, Daniel felt the faint beginnings of healing. He whispered to himself, maybe this is how life works. When you lose something, sometimes the universe sends you something else you didn't expect. Lily finished her song and looked at him with her bright eyes. "She's sleeping now," she said proudly. Daniel smiled. "Yes, he is. Thank you, Lily." She tilted her head. "You don't have to thank me every time." "Yes, I do," Daniel said softly. "Because I'll never stop being grateful." Outside the window, the city lights shimmered. Inside the Carter mansion, something new was growing, an unlikely bond between a grieving father, his baby son, and a little neighbor girl who sang lullabies. And for Daniel, every night with her song felt like a step closer to healing his broken heart. The following week brought small but powerful changes to Daniel's life. Nights were no longer filled with endless crying. Whenever Jacob fussed, Lily would come running, her little voice steady and sweet. Within minutes, the baby would calm down and fall asleep. What once felt like torture for Daniel had turned into moments of unexpected comfort. Daniel started looking forward to evenings. He didn't admit it out loud, but he found himself waiting for that small knock on the door, followed by Lily's cheerful face peeking in. She would climb onto the chair by the crib as if she had been doing it her whole life. Jacob responded to her almost immediately. Sometimes, he even reached out his tiny hands toward her, as though he recognized her as his friend. One night, after Jacob had fallen asleep, Daniel asked Lily a question. "Do you ever get tired of singing for him?" Lily shook her head firmly. "No. I like it. He reminds me of my doll at home, except he's louder. But he's cute. And when he smiles it makes me happy." Daniel chuckled softly. "He's lucky to have you." Lily tilted her head. "No, you're lucky to have him. Babies are a gift. My mama says that all the time." Her words struck Daniel in a way he didn't expect. He remembered how Claire used to say almost the same thing. Babies are miracles, no matter how small. Hearing it again, from this little girl, felt like a message from the past. Days turned into weeks. Slowly, Daniel found himself adjusting to a new rhythm. During the day, he still worked long hours at the company, attending meetings and making big decisions. But his evenings had changed. Instead of dreading the night, he began to see it as a time of connection, between him, his son, and a 6-year-old girl who had unexpectedly become part of their lives. One evening, Daniel returned home earlier than usual. He walked into the nursery and found a surprising scene. Lily was sitting on the rug, surrounded by Jacob's toys. She was stacking blocks and Jacob, though too small to build, was giggling as he knocked them over with his tiny hands. Daniel stopped at the doorway, watching quietly. For the first time in months, his son was laughing, real, joyful baby laughter. The sound filled the room like sunlight. Daniel felt his chest tighten, but not with grief. This time it was something different, something lighter. Lily looked up and saw him standing there. "Oh, hi, Mr. Carter. We're playing." Daniel stepped in, crouching beside them. "I can see that. He looks happy. He likes knocking things down," Lily said seriously, as though it were an important discovery. "So I build them up again," and he laughs. Jacob clapped his tiny hands, squealing with joy. Daniel picked him up and kissed his cheek. "You're laughing, huh? I haven't heard that in a long time." Lily grinned. "See, he just needed a friend." Daniel glanced at her, realizing how right she was. Jacob needed more than just care. He needed warmth, laughter, and music. And somehow, Lily had given him all of that. Later that night, after Jacob was asleep, Daniel sat in his study, staring at a photo of Claire on his desk. He whispered softly, "You should see him, Claire. He's laughing again. I didn't think it would be possible. But this little girl, she brought life back into him. Into me too." The photo didn't answer, but Daniel felt a strange peace. For months he had avoided looking at her pictures because the pain was too heavy. Tonight, it felt bearable, maybe even comforting. The next day Daniel made a decision. At breakfast he called Rosa into the dining room. Lily followed shyly, holding her mother's hand. "I've been thinking," Daniel began. "Lily spends so much time with Jacob. She's been wonderful for him. I want to make sure she's taken care of too." Rosa frowned, unsure. "Sir, we're fine. You've already been too kind." Daniel shook his head. "No, Rosa. I want to help. Lily deserves a good education. I want to enroll her in a proper school. I'll cover the costs, everything." Rosa's eyes filled with tears. She tried to protest, but Daniel held up a hand. "Please. This isn't charity. This is gratitude. She's given me something no one else could. Peace for my son. Let me do this for her." Lily looked between them, not fully understanding. "School. Real school. With books and teachers." Daniel smiled at her excitement. "Real school. You deserve it." She jumped with joy, hugging her mother tightly. Rosa wiped her tears, whispering, "Thank you, sir. I don't know how to repay you." "You already have," Daniel said softly. From that day on, Lily's role in the Carter home grew. She still sang lullabies at night, but now she also visited Jacob during the day, playing with him, making him laugh. Daniel noticed how much brighter the house felt whenever she was around. Even the staff whispered about the change. They said the mansion no longer felt so heavy, so quiet. One evening, after another long day at work, Daniel returned home to find Lily sitting on the steps of the house waiting. She had a small book in her hand, the kind children used for early reading. "Mr. Carter," she called out as he stepped out of his car. "I can read this now. Want to hear?" Daniel smiled. Surprised. Of course, let's hear it. She opened the book and stumbled through the words, her voice proud even when she got some wrong. Daniel clapped when she finished. That's amazing, Lily. You're learning so fast. Her eyes shone. It's because of school. Thank you. Daniel's heart warmed. He had thought giving her an education would be a small gesture. But seeing her excitement, he realized it was much bigger. He hadn't just given her school, he had given her a future. That night, as Lily sang Jacob to sleep, Daniel sat nearby, feeling a sense of completeness he hadn't felt since before Claire's illness. Life was still hard. The grief was still there. But now, there was also hope, laughter, and the sound of a little girl's lullaby echoing through the halls of his home. For the first time in a long time, Daniel allowed himself to believe that healing was possible. As the weeks went by, the Carter mansion began to feel different. What had once been a cold, silent place of grief now carried the sound of soft songs, baby laughter, and even the small footsteps of a little girl running through the halls. Daniel noticed the change not only in Jacob but in himself. Every night had a rhythm now. Jacob would fuss, Daniel would try to calm him, and soon after, there would be a soft knock at the nursery door. Lily would peek in with her shy smile and say, "Can I help?" She always could. Her lullabies worked every time. And Jacob trusted her in a way that amazed Daniel. One Friday evening, Daniel came home later than usual. He was exhausted from meetings, but when he walked into the house, he heard giggling coming from the nursery. Curious, he went upstairs quietly. The door was half open, and inside he saw a sight that stopped him in his tracks. Lily was sitting on the floor, holding Jacob on her lap. She was singing softly while rocking him back and forth. Jacob wasn't crying, he was smiling, his little hands patting her face as though he recognized her voice as comfort. Daniel leaned against the doorframe, watching silently. For months, he had felt helpless, like he couldn't give Jacob what he needed. But here was this small girl, filling a role he never expected. After a while, Lily noticed him standing there. She whispered, "He's happy tonight." Daniel smiled. "Yes, he is. Thanks to you." She blushed and looked down. "I just like helping." Later that night, after Lily had gone back to her room, Daniel sat by Jacob's crib. He whispered, "Your mama would be proud of you, Jacob. And maybe she'd be proud of me too, for letting someone else help." The next morning, Daniel decided to do something special. At breakfast, he asked Rosa if Lily could join him and Jacob on a short outing. Rosa hesitated, but Lily's eyes lit up at the thought. "Where are we going?" she asked excitedly. Daniel smiled. "To the park. Jacob hasn't been outside much and I think he needs fresh air. And I think you do too." That afternoon, Daniel drove them to the city park. It was a sunny day, and the air carried the scent of blooming flowers. Daniel pushed Jacob's stroller while Lily skipped alongside. She pointed at everything. Birds, squirrels, even the clouds shaped like animals. Jacob giggled each time Lily leaned into the stroller to make funny faces. For Daniel, it was overwhelming. He had avoided parks since Claire's death because they reminded him of her. But today, with Jacob's laughter and Lily's chatter, it felt different. Healing. They found a quiet bench near the pond. Lily pulled out a sandwich Rosa had packed and sat cross-legged on the grass. Jacob reached for her food, and Lily laughed, tearing off a small piece of bread to give him. "He's hungry too," she said. Daniel chuckled. "He just wants whatever you have. He already trusts you more than anyone." Lily's smile widened. "That's because I sing to him. Songs make people friends." Her words echoed in Daniel's mind long after they left the park. Songs make people friends. It was simple, but somehow true. That evening, when Jacob grew restless again, Lily sang her lullaby while Daniel sat quietly in the nursery. For the first time, instead of feeling like a failing parent, he felt like part of a team. Together, he and Lily were giving Jacob the love he needed. But as the nights continued, Daniel began to wonder about Lily's own life. She was always cheerful, always ready to help, but her clothes were still worn, her shoes still old. One evening, after Jacob had fallen asleep, Daniel asked her gently, "Lily, what do you want to be when you grow up?" She thought hard, her eyes shining. "A teacher. I want to teach kids songs and stories. Then no one will feel lonely." Daniel's throat tightened. Such a simple dream, yet so powerful. He realized how much she had already taught him. about patience, about kindness, about love in its purest form. The following week, Daniel met with Rosa privately. He handed her an envelope. "This is for Lily's future. It's not charity, Rosa, it's a promise. She deserves every opportunity." Rosa's hands shook as she took it. Tears filled her eyes. "Sir? You've done more for us than we could ever repay." Daniel shook his head. "You've already repaid me. Every night, your daughter gives me something I can't buy. Peace. Hope, my son's smile. That's worth more than anything." That evening, Daniel came home to find Lily waiting by the nursery door. "Mr. Carter," she whispered, "can I sing early tonight? I think Jacob is sad." Daniel let her in, and sure enough, Jacob was fussing. But the moment Lily began her song, the baby quieted, his tiny body relaxing. Daniel sat nearby, his eyes wet with unspoken emotions. When the song ended, Jacob was asleep. Lily turned to him and said, "See, he just needs love." Daniel nodded, his voice low. "And you gave it to him when I couldn't." That night, after Lily had left, Daniel stayed by Jacob's crib longer than usual. He thought about Claire, about her absence, about his son's future. And then he thought about Lily, the unexpected gift who had walked into their lives with nothing more than a lullaby. He whispered to the dark, "I don't know why life brought her here, but I'm grateful. For Jacob. For her. For this second chance." Outside, the city lights flickered. But inside the Carter mansion, something had shifted. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about living again. And Daniel knew. This was only the beginning of a bond that would change all of them forever. The next morning began quietly in the Carter mansion. Sunlight poured through the tall windows, and the air carried a sense of calm. For weeks, Daniel had woken up expecting Jacob's cries to shake him from sleep. But today, the house was still. Curious, Daniel walked to the nursery. To his surprise, Lily was already there. She was sitting in the rocking chair. Jacob curled against her chest, both of them fast asleep. Her head leaned back, hair falling softly across her face, while Jacob's tiny hand clung to her sleeve. Daniel stood at the door frozen. The scene was so tender it nearly broke him. He had fought so hard to do everything alone. Yet here was a little girl who had given Jacob what even he couldn't, peace. Quietly, Daniel stepped inside, took a blanket, and draped it over Lily's small shoulders. Jacob stirred but didn't cry. He only burrowed closer, safe in her arms. Later that day, when Lily finally woke, she looked embarrassed. "I didn't mean to fall asleep, Mr. Carter. I just wanted to keep him calm." Daniel smiled softly. "You don't need to apologize. Jacob trusts you. Maybe more than anyone." Her cheeks flushed. "That's because I sing to him." Daniel chuckled. "Yes, but it's more than that. You care. And he feels it." From that day, it became routine. Lily was no longer just a helper, she was part of Jacob's daily life. She fed him small spoonfuls of mashed fruit, stacked blocks with him on the nursery floor, and clapped whenever he giggled. Daniel began to notice something incredible. Jacob laughed more, cried less, and reached milestones faster than before. One evening, after dinner, Daniel found Lily in the library. Carefully tracing the words in a book, she was mouthing the sentences, moving slowly, as if teaching herself. "Do you like reading?" Daniel asked, stepping closer. Lily jumped, startled. "Yes, Mr. Carter. But I'm not very good yet. Mama teaches me when she can. But she's always busy with work." Daniel glanced at the book in her lap. It was far too advanced for her age, yet she was determined. "Would you like me to help?" he offered. Her eyes widened. "Really? Of course. Every teacher starts as a student." That night, they sat together. Daniel guiding her through simple words and sentences. Jacob rested in his crib nearby, occasionally cooing as if joining the lesson. For the first time in years, Daniel felt like his home wasn't just filled with duties. It was filled with life. Days turned into weeks, and soon the seasons began to change. Autumn leaves painted the city in shades of red and gold. Daniel started taking Lily and Jacob on more outings. Small trips to the park, walks by the lake. Even quiet visits to the bakery down the street. Wherever they went, people would smile at the sight. A wealthy man pushing a stroller while a little girl walked proudly beside him, holding Jacob's hand. One afternoon, while sitting on a park bench, Lily turned to Daniel with a thoughtful look. "Mr. Carter. Can I ask you something?" "Of course." Why do you always look sad when you think no one is watching? Daniel froze. The question hit deeper than he expected. He tried to smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. I guess, because I miss someone. Someone very special, Jacob's mama, she asked softly. Daniel nodded. Yes, she was kind and full of love. Losing her, it made me forget how to smile for a long time. Lily was quiet for a moment. Then she whispered, maybe that's why Jacob cries so much. He feels her missing too. But I can help. I can sing for both of you. Daniel swallowed hard, emotion rising in his chest. He looked at this small girl. No older than 6, speaking words far wiser than her age. Lily, you already have. That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. He lay awake thinking about what Lily had said. She wasn't just comforting Jacob, she was healing him too. And in many ways, she was healing Daniel himself. The following week, Daniel decided it was time to give Lily something she deserved. After breakfast, he asked Rosa and Lily to sit with him in the living room. He handed Lily a neatly wrapped box. Her eyes widened. For me? Yes, Daniel said gently. Go on, open it. Lily carefully unwrapped the box, revealing a brand new pair of shoes and a small stack of children's books. Her jaw dropped. Oh, they're so pretty, she exclaimed, slipping on the shoes immediately. They fit perfectly. Daniel smiled. I thought you could use these for school. And the books. So you can practice reading whenever you want. Lily's eyes filled with tears. She hugged the books tightly to her chest. Thank you, Mr. Carter. I'll take good care of them. I promise. In that moment, Daniel realized just how much she had changed his world. A little girl with almost nothing had walked into his life, and given him everything he thought he had lost. Later that evening, as Lily read softly to Jacob from one of her new books, Daniel stood by the doorway, watching. His son's small fingers tugged at the pages while Lily's voice carried through the room. And Daniel thought, maybe this is what family looks like. Not the one I expected. Not the one I planned. But the one we were given. That night, as the house grew quiet, Daniel whispered a silent vow. He would protect Lily as much as he protected Jacob. She wasn't just a helper anymore. She was part of them. Woven into their story, into their healing. Into their hearts. The Carter mansion, once cold and empty, now held something priceless: hope. And Daniel knew deep down that the journey was far from over, because this bond, the one between a grieving father, his fragile son, and a brave little girl, was only just beginning. Winter had settled over the city. Snowflakes drifted past the tall windows of the Carter mansion, quiet and slow, painting the night in silver. Inside, however, there was warmth, laughter, small voices, and the gentle crackle of the fireplace. Daniel sat on the floor beside Jacob's crib, watching his son try to reach for a stuffed bear. Across from him, Lily giggled, encouraging the baby. Come on, Jacob, she whispered. Almost there. You can do it. The baby squealed happily, kicking his tiny legs. Daniel smiled. That sound, laughter instead of crying, was something he had once feared he would never hear again. But Lily had changed everything. Rosa entered quietly with a tray of cocoa. She paused, her eyes soft as she watched her daughter and the CEO together. Mr. Carter, she said gently. Lily has brought light back into this house. Daniel looked at her, and then at the little girl who was now clapping for Jacob. You're right, Rosa. She gave Jacob peace. And she gave me something I thought I had lost forever, hope. Later that night, Jacob grew restless. His small cries filled the room, and Daniel stood to lift him, but before he could, Lily was already by the crib. She scooped Jacob into her arms with surprising gentleness. It's okay, she whispered, rocking him slowly. Then she began to hum her lullaby. The same one from that first desperate night. The melody floated through the room. Soft and pure. Jacob's cries softened, his breathing calmed, and soon, he was asleep against her shoulder. Daniel's chest ached as he watched. That song. That voice. It had healed not only his son, but him as well. Lily, he said quietly. Do you know what you've done for us? She looked up, confused. I just sang so Jacob would be happy. Daniel knelt down beside her, his voice thick with emotion. You gave him love when he needed it most. And you gave me the strength to keep going when I thought I couldn't. Her small smile grew wider. Jacob feels like my little brother now. And you don't look sad anymore. Daniel's throat tightened. He thought of Claire, his late wife. He imagined her smile, her voice, her lullabies. He knew, if she could see this moment, she would be proud. He placed a hand gently on Lily's shoulder. "You'll always have a place here, Lily. You're part of this family now." Her eyes widened. "Really, really," Daniel said, his voice firm but warm. "Family isn't only about who we're born with. It's about who stays, who loves us, and who makes us whole again. You are family." A tears filled Rose's eyes as she stood silently in the doorway. Lily's face lit up with a smile, and she nodded eagerly. "Then I'll always take care of Jacob. And maybe even you too, Mr. Carter." Daniel let out a laugh, genuine and full. The kind he hadn't heard from himself in so long. He pulled her into a hug, careful not to wake Jacob, and felt something settle in his heart. The mansion, once silent and cold, was now alive, with laughter, with love, and with the promise of tomorrow. Outside, the snow kept falling, quiet and steady. Inside, the Carter family, broken once, now mending, was whole again. Daniel whispered a silent thought into the night. "Claire, we're okay now. Because of her." And in that moment, he knew the story of loss had turned into a story of healing. Not an ending, but a new beginning. Thank you so much for giving your precious time to this story. If it touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more emotional stories. Your support means everything to us. Stay with us for more stories that inspire and heal.